I wanted a career helping people. I just didn't know what that was. I took a class my freshman year at college where each lecture was a different health specialty. So, phlebotomy, radiology, things like that. When we had the occupational therapy lecture, everything clicked. That was me. I knew it. It was like, hallelujah. It was just fantastic. After I graduated, I worked a couple years in pediatrics and adults both at the same time. When I moved back to Charlotte, my first job was at a skilled nursing facility, providing rehab to both those short-term patients from the hospital, but also those long-term patients that lived there. When I walked in the first day, I was nervous. Didn't have a great reputation. Nursing homes, just not where anybody wants to be. And frankly, there was an odor when I walked in the door. And I started down the hall and I just thought, this is not for me. I can't do this. I started to turn around, and as I did, a male patient in a wheelchair started rolling towards me very quickly, and he kept repeating, honey, honey, honey. And I just froze. He got down to the end of the hall and he grabbed my hand and he looked me in the eye, and I just felt like I belonged there. It was just amazing. Well, it turns out he'd had a stroke, and that was the only word he could say. And even though that was the only word he could say, he said a lot with that one word. Turns out he also had dementia. And so when he let you in, you knew it and you felt so special. And since that day, it really changed how I viewed aging, but also adults. I loved my pediatrics because it was fun and we got to play with them. But as an adult, you have lived and you have such great stories and experiences that you can pass on to the rest of us that was just phenomenal to me. So I just connected at that point, and it made a difference not only to me, but helped me realize how grateful I was to be allowed that. So that's what I wanted to give back. So every day since then, it has been my mission and my passion to help older adults live every day with dignity, with respect, to help them share their past, but also engage and be with them in their present. We don't know what the future holds for any of us, but we need to be there for everyone now. And so that's what I get to do. And I get to laugh with them and I can help them feel joy again. That's when I know I've had a good day. That literally was the start of my care management journey, even though I was doing occupational therapy. Because although I did not become officially a care manager until 2023, being an occupational therapy, a therapist put me in the position to be so involved and integral in somebody's life that I got to make a difference. And it wasn't just with ADLs or, bathing and dressing and those things. It was, you let me in, and what else do you need? You need companionship. You need to be able to get outside into the sun. You want to be able to sing. Maybe we dance a little bit. You want to be able to read your favorite romance or murder mystery or biography. Let's figure out how you can do that. And that gives me such joy that I can give those back to people, that I just continued to do it. And then after COVID, I was a rehab program manager, and the services were not coming back online and up and running as efficiently as they were pre-COVID. Everything was a little slower. I'm sending folks home after therapy, and they've done a great job, and they didn't get any services. Yes, the therapy and the nursing might have come in, but when I call to check on them, nobody's getting their medications because they don't have transportation. They can't get to the grocery store, so they're only eating once a day, and they're doing prepackaged like crackers and things like that they can eat because they don't have food they can prepare, and they don't have anybody there that can help them. And so that just really, I got to the point where I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus because I was so concerned about the folks that we'd sent home that didn't have the support they needed. And so that's when I stopped being a rehab program manager and said, I'm going to make a full-time switch. And so I've been doing this since 23, and I absolutely can't imagine doing anything else.
Well, welcome everyone. This is Gina
This is Don.
with Focused Healthy Family. This is podcast 186, and today we have the pleasure of talking to Jennifer Douds with Answering for Aging. She's an occupational therapist and a care manager. So we're going to be talking about aging in place and dementia support today. Jennifer, so we're so glad you're here. Jennifer has over 30 years of experience as an occupational therapist, specializing in helping older adults maintain their independence, reducing anxiety around aging, and providing support to help them continue to live in the place that they love. She understands the challenges families face when they can't always be there for every appointment or medication reminder, and what services are available out there to help them. She has helped both her husband's parents and is now helping her own parents with these same concerns. Jennifer's company, Answers for Aging, takes on the heavy lifting involved with caring for older adults, ensuring that your loved one's care is handled with the utmost care and attention. So welcome, Jennifer. Glad you're here today with
Thank you
us.
for having me.
I'm sure, Gina, you were connecting with a lot of those stories too, you know.
Oh, yeah, going through COVID in the nursing home setting was heart-wrenching. It, my biggest memory is they were wheeled in from the hospital, from the transport. Someone brought them to their room and they sat there and there was no one around. And, no one came in right away. Family was not allowed to be in with them. I worked in a gated community, so we couldn't even have window visits like some facilities had. Um, and I was the weekend evaluating therapist, and I just felt my job took on a whole new role. I get my boss's boss kept saying Gina's spending too much time with these patients, but I felt like I had to orient them to what was going on, the environment. They often felt more reassured, answering just basic questions. But it was very disconnecting. They didn't have, like other activities and things that would go on around that time. So I love what you do with your business, reading about it on your website. And there are so many areas of additional support that people need. They kind of get kicked out the door now in a short-term rehab setting, especially with some of the insurance companies, and they're not always ready for it. Um, so I'd love to hear more about how you kind of just jumped into being a care manager. Did you work for someone before you just started your own business?
So I did not. So every time I would go in to see a client, I would, as an occupational therapist, we're very holistic. So I'm not just there to treat their pain or to get them in the bathroom or whatever. Their entire life is what I'm interested in because it's all interconnected. So I would go in and we're working on whatever it is that day or that week. And I would inquire, well, how's everything else going? How often do you get to talk to your children? Well, only when they call because I can't use my phone. Why can't you use your phone? Well, this is arthritis has gotten bad and I can't do it, or I've got a little bit of tremoring going on and I can't push the right buttons and it's so frustrating. And they text me, it's great, but I can't respond. Well, let's work on voice to text. And so it just kind of morphed into you need more support than what you're getting. But they didn't know to ask for help, and their family doesn't realize it always. A lot of my clients are actually the out of town family members that contact me to be available for their loved one that's here.
Mm.
And so, I'm speaking with their POAs while I'm talking to them and letting them know these are the challenges I'm seeing, these are the changes I'm noticing over the weeks. Um, you know, would you like me to help you with this? You should probably talk to this kind of service and that kind of service, and here's some recommendations. So I was doing it anyway as the occupational therapist and spending more time. I wasn't getting paid for it because insurance doesn't pay, the companies don't pay as an OT. You go in, you do your therapy, you're done. But it was just something that I couldn't not do because it's like, you teach them to walk again, but then you leave them on the side of the road. It doesn't make sense. So for me, I just couldn't leave somebody unattended. I had to figure out and solve their problems, give them solutions and resources. And so I've always been doing it. And so I didn't know care management was a thing until I realized during COVID, that's what happened. We knew case management, social workers and nurses in the hospital helping them get to their next place and the next services, but that's case management per case. Let's do it. Care management for me, and there are lots of different kinds, but care management for me is I want to be a part of the journey. I want to make sure that each avenue that you go through in every decade and every year, month, week, whatever it might be, is wonderful. And so that's not, here's your resource and I'll check on you in 6 months. That's how did it go? And did they show up? And did you like the person? And was the timing correct for you? And can I do anything to make it better? And so there was all this follow up that goes with that. And it just was something I was naturally doing anyway. And then I just, after COVID, saw the need for it so much that I wasn't sleeping. And so I said, I have to do this because I need to get my life back so I can be here for my family, but I have to be able to sleep at night knowing I did what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned insurance. Does insurance pay for what you do with the care management?
So under care management, it is either private pay or it is long-term care insurance sometimes. Specific policies do have that rider, but most do not. Unfortunately, they do not see the value in it right now. Sometimes under a managed care product, they also incorporate care management. But again, most of those are nurses or social workers that just have, you need a service. There isn't a lot of follow up. Once in a while, they'll even do a recommendation. That's great, but maybe that's not the best fit for the client. But it is getting out and more people are hearing about it. But it is one of those underrated professions, kind of like occupational therapy. Excuse me for tooting our own horn, but I do agree with that. So
Yeah, well, when I first found out when she said occupational therapy, I thought, oh, it was something to do with work. I didn't know all the detail. I do now, but then I didn't. So yeah.
right.
Common assumption.
Well, now you mentioned on the website about this Second Wind Dreams, I think you call it virtual dementia tour. What is that? Well, tell me a little bit about it and what do you use it for?
Okay. So dementia is really my passion. People living with dementia, their caregivers, their family, their communities. The more we understand what's going on, the more we have empathy. And when we have empathy, it's a better world.
Mhm.
It could be for anything, but dementia is so debilitating. You can have any other disease process and it's horrible. But when you say your mind is going and when your mind goes, it affects not only you, but everyone that you come in contact with.
Mhm.
That's scary. So what I like to do is I partnered with Second Wind Dreams. It's PK Bevel established the organization, and then they've been around about 20 years. They're in 120 countries and counting. So don't quote me on the number, but it's past that now. And what it is she has established through research and evidence-based programming that this virtual dementia tour is basically a walk in somebody with mild to moderate dementia's shoes.
Okay.
You experience how they live for a short period of time. She has established this virtual dementia tour to give you a tour into their world, insight, and experience. You're not reading about it, you're not seeing it, you're experiencing it, you're living it. It's not virtual reality, it is an immersive experience. And that amount of time, and it doesn't take long, 15 minutes to a half an hour, it will change your world. I've been doing this over 30 years. I think it's 35, 36 at this point. I don't know. And we didn't even know what dementia was. The diagnosis didn't exist, but we were treating those people the best that
Mhm.
we knew how. And once I went through the tour, it made all the difference for me. I had been giving great care, the best that I could with the knowledge I had and the empathy that I understood. But until I went through it and experienced it, The aha moments were phenomenal. And honestly, I broke down. I thought about all the people in my career that I've touched that had dementia
Mm-hmm.
that maybe I could have done a little better. And I thought I did great with them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
just to have that extra knowledge just made me feel like I'm going to change the world. But it also made me sad that I hadn't had this prior to be able to help them and change their world. So it was really important once I went through it that I carry that on. So it is a
Mhm.
part of what Answers for Aging offers. It is always free to the community,
Mm.
100% free to the community. So if anyone would like a tour,
Mm.
whether it's family,
Mm-hmm.
church members, companies, whatever, you can get in touch with us. And there are lots of virtual dementia tour trainers around the country, around the world. It's not just me, but I'm happy to put you in touch with somebody in a different state, different country. Um, and we'll take you through the experience. I do it a lot for most of my clients who have loved ones that have dementia and that are living with that. We take those family members through one on one, and it is amazing the difference and the understanding that they get afterwards. And I'll tell you, the one thing universally that I notice is that people have more patience. They are kinder. They are slower when they are speaking and working with their loved one with dementia because they get it. It's not personal. They don't purposely not hear you or not do something or not get up or not eat or not. It's
Mhm.
not personal. They are having a hard time. And once you go through it, you understand it. So all of a sudden, one, the sense of relief that it's not your fault
Mm.
is big, right? It isn't anybody's fault, but it's also not only on you to be the primary caregiver. There are supports for you. And a lot of times when we are living with someone with dementia, and my family was the same way, it's hard to ask for help because
Mhm.
you're managing your life, their life, and everything peripheral to that. It's just too hard to ask for help, right? It's one more thing you have to go do. So it's
Yeah.
so difficult to do and bring yourself to do. And once people go through this, they understand it takes more than what they can do. So they're amenable to more help. And so it's easier to get them help. And after we get them help, then they say, thank you. I wish I'd done it sooner because I didn't know what they needed. And I thought I
Yeah.
had to do it all. But you don't. And you need as much support as the other one, the person living with dementia does. So
Yeah.
it is a combination effort. And so once people go through the tour, they understand that. And it's just a lovely thing to see their one-on-one experiences become so much better
Mm.
because they laugh more and they're more at ease, both of them, right? If you have a husband and a wife, or two partners, and I even have people that are now roommates because they're solo agers, right? And they're roommates in the same home, but they understand it. Then the communication and the interactions on a daily basis are just better. The quality, 100% better throughout the day.
Mm.
And the anger doesn't get triggered as much, and the frustration on both parties not so much. And it's such a lovely thing. The other reason I love this organization and partnering with them is that Second Wind Dreams is a nonprofit. And so on the corporate side, so if you have an organization, a corporation, I'm also certified for hospitals, nursing homes. If you want to train your employees, there's a cost for that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that cost goes to funding seniors' dreams. So we have it for children, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an
Okay.
organization that does that for children. You
Okay.
do not have to have dementia. You just have to be an older adult that has a dream. And if you put it on the website, they will fund it. And that's the funding comes from, is the
Oh,
corporate trainings to help their staff understand and have greater empathy for those living with dementia. So
Wow.
it is a win-win. It is so much fun.
I wish we had known about this sooner. My dad went through Parkinson's and developed dementia. He passed last fall, and my mom was his primary caregiver,
Oh,
and
yes.
she
Condolences.
thank you, cared for him at home until his last months when we were like, "Mom, this is too much on you."
Mm,
But because I was always trying to help educate her about the dementia and things. But that would have been good to know. But I know it now for other people,
right.
um, to to be able to yeah, because I can. We don't know what it's like, their experience, and it sounds like this virtual tour kind of gives you a glimpse into um, what the experience is like. I know as a therapist, we've done things, whether it's in school or trainings, to simulate, not being
Hmm.
able to see and different sensory deprivations and things. So I imagine it's similar to those types of things.
It is. It is a structured environment that takes you through tasks in a diminished capacity environment. And
Okay.
it is amazing.
Is it done in person?
Frustrating.
Yeah, sure. Is it done just in person or what are or
It
any
is in
virtual?
person, and I have a concierge practice, so I don't have an office because I like to be with my clients. So I go to you. So we come, we set up the experience, and then you go through it, and then we talk about it. So we never want to leave anyone just up and we're done, right? So there's a piece at the end where you get to talk about what it means to you and how it impacts you and kind of get you started on that refocusing your efforts um, part of the journey because now you this understanding comes about and you're like, oh, okay, well then this and this and all of a sudden it starts happening. So we want to kind of walk you through that to give you support for that. And that happens same day, same at the same time. And then we're obviously available for any kind of other follow-up questions or anything that comes out of that.
Is it like watching a video or what is
No, it's
the
immersive experience. We put you into a sensory deprived state. We ask you to do evidence-based tasks, and you have time to do them.
oh, okay.
It's kind of like everyday life. You know, you have to be places at certain times, and you have to get things done before that so you can get there. And yeah, it's just regular life.
But you said it only takes about 30 minutes or
The experience itself, yes,
self. Okay. And
yes.
then there's obviously the discussion you talked about afterwards, which
Uh-huh.
sounds so vital. And so, in your work that you do consulting and as a care manager, you said oftentimes it's the family members who reach out to you concerned about their loved one who's most likely lives at a distance.
Correct.
Are you able to connect them sometimes if they're not local to you to set up?
Absolutely.
Um,
There are facilitators and trainers for virtual dementia tours all over the country. Absolutely.
and so tell us a little bit more about what you do as the care manager, like when someone contacts you.
Okay. So it really, case management is about providing services.
Hmm.
Care management for what we do is we get to know somebody. So it's very vital to me that I establish trust. Also, that I'm the right fit for you. If
Hmm.
you have a lot of nursing medical needs, I can help you, but I'm probably not the best fit for you to feel the most comfortable. So
Hmm.
I'm going to, probably recommend you somewhere else because I don't have a nurse that works with me at the moment. I do a lot of um, collaboration with nursing care management and nursing case management on the longer term side. So once they get home and everything's good, and let's make sure all the systems are set up, and then, and I make sure and facilitate all of that. But yeah, so we uh, will help with a little bit of everything. It depends on what you need. Things like going for medications,
Hmm.
setting up appointments, going with them to be their advocate. A lot of times they'll have questions before they get in there. I have to ask about this, or I need to remind myself about that. And maybe they write it down, maybe they don't. But if we've talked about it before and I know that it's an ongoing issue, then I can be your advocate to say, oh, and what about this? And you wanted to talk about this, and didn't you have concerns about that? Oh, that's right. And so I just kind of support them as they go, make
Hmm.
sure that everything, if there have been any changes, that not only do they understand what those changes are once we get back out of the appointment, because, only so much will happen that you can remember. And then make sure that the loved one that's either out of town or the family member also is aware so they can help reinforce and understand the changes that came about and what the plans are going forward. We also set up transportation for people so they can socialize. Let's get you to the theater. Let's get you to church. Let's get you to, it's Rosh Hashanah this week, so it's, your celebrations. You have a Saturday card game. Let's get you there. We set people up with meal services if needed, groceries. As an older adult, the older you get, the more vulnerable the population becomes for people like the delivery services. Do you want somebody coming to your door? Do you trust them?
Mhm.
So there are vetted and trusted service providers in the older adult industry that we work with and that we trust. And those are the ones that we tend to refer to. But you have my word and our service that we're going to follow up and make sure you got exactly what was ordered, that it came on time, those type of things as well. It's not just a one and done. We make sure that whatever's been put into place is working for you the best. I also work a lot on medication management.
Mhm.
So, you can get a prescription refilled, but when do you take it? How do you take it? Did you take it? Those are all very daily questions, sometimes two, three, four, six times a day, depends on, how many medications you're on and what system is going to work for you. We don't all benefit from the same pill box or the
Mhm.
same system. So it's how do you think? How do you work? What makes sense to you? Once I understand that, and that's one of the first things I try to do, then I can help set up a medication system that you can follow, that someone else can help you with if you need it, and that makes sense to you. So you're not wondering, oh, but I didn't, but did I? Is this the thing I do? And how do I do it? No, I want you to feel very comfortable and confident with what you're doing. So the system needs to work for you, not universal system, but one for you.
Sure. I work in an independent living community right now, and it's a standalone independent living.
Uh-huh.
And because of costs, a lot of people really need more than independent living there. And
Mm-hmm.
like medication management is a huge thing that we do. And we can bill for that as occupational therapists, as that service. But then it's about supporting the family following through. And we had a family member, and she had some kind of smart device. And she set a reminder on there, did you take your medicines? And I talked to this patient about it, and she goes, "Oh, I just ignore that when I hear that."
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, that's not working. We had good intentions with this reminder, but it's not working, and it's such a problem. And as you know, it contributes to so many things because if you're not taking your medicine, or you're taking too much medicine, it leads to other healthcare problems and challenges and things. And yeah, there's lots of different things out there. I know I've done some research on different types of devices. I looked at your page of resources. I know there's ones that you can set a timer, that it can release the pills. There's even one family member had one that had an app to it, and they literally got contacted if the person didn't take the medicine, and things. So there's some really neat things out there with advances in technology to support that because, yeah, and then people don't want to admit that they have difficulty
That's
managing. Oh,
exactly right. That
yeah.
is exactly right. And it's one of the first things that we see really is I'll get a referral or an inquiry on I think we need help with, and it's usually medication. I'm not sure they're taking it right, and just can you help us check on that? Okay. And when I go in, what do I notice? Well, there's stacks of bills and papers and magazines and newspapers and whatever. And they're not necessarily floor to ceiling. That's not what I'm saying, but there's multiple stacks and they all seem to be centered right where that person's favorite chair is. That's where they sit every day. And those stacks and piles are right there. There's also multiple cups, usually right there. And, so it just looks like, okay, that person's kind of living in the chair. And when I get to the refrigerator, oh, it's maybe not as clean as it used to be. And I think those leftovers were there last week when I came in. And okay, so what's going on there? Um, just different things like that really can indicate somebody's struggling, but doesn't want to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great time. If you notice any of that, there's small changes, subtle changes that are not normal to your loved one. I've
Mm-hmm.
been in several where they said, nope, they've been a pack rat their whole life, stacks and stacks everywhere all day long. When I was a kid, I would trip on them. Okay, well, then that's normal. If the stacks get bigger or maybe smaller, then you're going to know that there's a change. But when you start noticing those subtle changes, that's a good time to bring in a third party, the
Mm-hmm.
care manager, who can kind of assess the entire situation. It also then takes the onus on the loved one from saying, okay, now we have this battle.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I love you, but I see all this problem, or I'm concerned, right? I get to come in as the care manager, or anyone as a care manager, and say, it looks like you have a good handle on what's going on, but is anything challenging to you? Not hard, because as adults, we don't want to hear that anything's hard. But has anything changed? Is it, maybe it's your handwriting. Maybe it's you can't see as well, so you keep everything close because you're going to finally pick it up and read it when it's light, right? But when was the last time you went to an eye doctor? How old is your prescription? Are you taking those eye drops, prescription eye drops, like you're supposed to? Because if you're missing those, the glaucoma, the macular degeneration, it's all going to change quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to say anything because they don't want to lose their license. They don't want to look like they have a problem and don't put me anywhere. They all want to stay there. They all want to age in place. And I'm a firm believer of aging in the right place. And
Mm-hmm.
if that means we can make your home safe and functional for you to maintain that, then I am all on board. But it may come to a point where that's not in your best interest. I get to be the person that can, one, introduce that concept without headbutting,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not your loved one, and you're not trying to put me someplace. We're having conversations about these items. And then it's also, oh yeah, I've got a friend who's over here in this one, and I have another client in this one, and they love when they go to the art shows and when, they have their 5 o'clock happy hour, and oh, really? 5 o'clock? Okay. So it's not what people think, but until they get there, they don't know. So I get to come in and be that kind of voice of experience and a sounding board for both the loved one who's concerned and also the client who doesn't want to talk to their loved one because they don't want to be a burden.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a privilege for me to be able to do it, and I just absolutely love it.
Yeah. You said, I think, a real important thing there as far as being that third party, because, I helped my mom caring for my dad, and yet there were challenges because it usually was more, he wouldn't listen to her, but he would listen to me more easily. But still, it helps to have an outside person because we were dealing with driving with my dad, and
Mm.
I took him to Charlotte Rehab. The first time he passed the driver test, I didn't realize he barely passed it. That's when he had very mild dementia. Um, but he had double vision and some other things that we were worried about. And then the next time he had been just taking his golf cart. They lived in a 55 plus community where he could take a golf cart everywhere. And he got the golf cart lost and off the side of the road at like 5 in the morning. My mom gets a knock on the door, not even aware that he had gone out from the police that had found him. So
Yeah.
we kind of came to the realization, okay, you're not even safe to drive a golf cart anymore. And I had to take him to the rehab to fail the test. And he was all ready to buy a sports car. Um,
Up to the day he died, actually, he was still wanting to buy that.
But his neurologist, and we loved his neurologist, he specializes in movement disorders, so works a lot with Parkinson's. At one point, my dad asked him, will I ever be able to drive? He goes, well, you could always take the test again. And it frustrates me because I'm like, he needs to be the bad guy. Because otherwise he thinks it's his family telling him he can't drive.
That's
And,
right. Hmm.
those people need to step in and say those difficult and those tough things because it just makes it harder on the family when they think it's only coming from the family
The
member.
evil family, you know.
Exactly.
Ah,
Exactly. Oh, I do know. I'm still in the middle of that with my parents, so
oh my.
I understand completely. Yes.
Um, so yeah, having that additional support and just, the resources, looking at your website, there's full of links to resources, and I'm sure you do that as the care manager of, you don't have all the answers and all the ability to help them, but you connect them with the resources and things that are out there and are available that a lot of people are unaware of. I've learned more about my mom found grants for caregivers through the Parkinson's Association, and that helped pay for caregiving services. And a lot of times people just think, oh, I can't afford it,
That's
you
right.
know.
Mhm.
And like you said, that, oh, I have to do it. I've got to be the one to take care of everything.
Well, we get kind of embarrassed. They get embarrassed too about not wanting to be the burden on people too. There's a lot that, plays into that.
Yeah.
Um, well, you mentioned a tip on here, and we always try to put tips up on our site. So, do you have it there to read, or do you know what the tip is?
I do.
Okay.
So my tip is that if you start to notice the little changes with your loved one, whether that's a missed bill payment, maybe you've got medication bottles in multiple places throughout the home, maybe there's dishes in the sink or they're left around the home that you don't normally see. The refrigerator, like I said, is not as clean as usual, or leftovers are not being eaten. There's stacks or piles of papers, junk mail, whatever, near their favorite sitting area. These are really signs your loved one may be struggling to manage everything and they'd benefit from extra support. And that's what a care manager provides.
And one last, you mentioned about what do you look for in a care manager, and are there bad care managers?
I would say there's not a bad care manager.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
they're a care manager, then they have the right intentions. You want to interview a care manager to find one that fits for you and your loved one's situation. You know, so do they have all the answers? Because if they do, right away, without meeting your loved one or you, or speaking with you very lengthy, then I don't know that they would be the best fit necessarily. You will want somebody who's been in the services area for a while, and they have connections throughout the community. Somebody moving to the community may not have all of that. That's not to say that they're bad, but
Mhm.
maybe they don't need as much, right? They don't have as many resources. They know where to find them because that's what a care manager specializes in. But I would look for somebody that's got experience in your community, that has, I prefer a healthcare background or adjacent.
Mhm.
So it could be a financial advisor that's, done trusts and wills and things like that, who, is in the older adult senior arena, and has transitioned. So they have a lot of contacts, right, for
Mm.
that population. Those type of things. Are you looking for medication? You're probably going to want to go with an OT or a nurse. Is it more about, well, they're just not really kind of moving much? Okay, well then, what about a PT, somebody with a background that understands mobility and just how that impacts balance and falls and things like that. So get your therapy people involved, get your speech therapy involved. Is your care manager aligned with therapists? Because we can't just set up services and hope they continue. Aging is a daily battle. And all of us have to do what we can do to stay healthy. So if you start with prevention and you can maintain that, because it does take work, then you will have a more fulfilling and joyful life. I want to leave everybody I touch with joy every day and confidence that they got this. Aging is not a bad thing. It is fantastic. And we just have to embrace it, but we have to live with confidence. If we are worried about our next step or our next meal or how are we going to do something, then that impacts all aspects of our lives. So if we can get rid of all those, negatives and turn them into positives. Yes, you've got services. Yes, we've put, these volunteers in place and we've got systems running for you. Hey, go do what you want to do. My grandmother was 84 and she wanted to ride a bike. I said, let's get out there and do it. Age is just a number. It is literally a number. And if you let that number define you, then your life is not going to be as rich. So go live your life and do it confidently because you've done so much already with your life. You've lived. Don't stop. Transition. We had challenges in our 20s and 30s. We had life challenges. We have life challenges now in our 50s to 80s to 90s. They're just different.
Yeah, yeah,
But we survived our 20s and 30s. We can survive this too.
yeah, yeah.
It's just going to look a little different, but we got this.
Well,
I love your enthusiasm, and I'm sure it carries over into the individuals you work with because you're right. We need to make the most of our life no matter what challenges we have going on. And yeah, I just think of the different people I see who really take that on. I have a 84, no, he's 94, that lives at the Independent Living Center. And I looked at his safety in his bathroom. I said, have you thought about a shower chair? It might just minimize your risk of falling in the shower. He goes, well, maybe someday. And I'm like, someday? You're 94.
Well, it's just a number.
Yeah,
yeah.
and he enjoys his life.
There you go.
I hope we can all be that way at some point, that.
Absolutely.
Well, Jennifer, it was really enjoyable talking to you. I enjoy what you're doing. I think that virtual tour is a really great idea for people, and we really appreciate you being here today. Is there anything you want to um, like express out about how to find you, what about your business then?
Oh yeah. Okay. So you can find me at answers for the word for FOR aging. So answers for aging.com.
Okay.
And so we have dual purpose specialties. We work with the aging population, obviously, but then also a sub niche of anyone dealing with either a loved one with dementia or a community with dementia. Any way we can support either aging adults or those with dementia specifically, that is our love, that is our passion, and what we're happy to do every day.
Well, again, we really thank you for being part of this.
Yes.
Um, and
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
And this is our podcast for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We would love to hear from you. Give us a comment or um, uh, give us a favor on anything you're uh, listening on. You can find out more about Gina and I at focusedhealthyfamily.com, where you can find out about what we do as far as our business. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m., I do an EFT tapping group tapping session. It's free. It's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find out more about us on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family, at Instagram at Focused Healthy Family 1, YouTube